to Raising Real Estate Standards. So we taught recently in our office the importance of how the new technology and AI, what it can do for some agents in the real estate field. And we brought in Scott, who's actually our producer on the podcast, but he's also an AI expert. And wanted to talk with him a little bit about how we can use these AI tools in real estate sales. So welcome, Scott. First time on camera with us.
Well, I usually have you guys on camera. I'm not the one that wants to be behind the camera or in front of the camera.
There you go. Well, tell us a little bit about, like, from your perspective, a little bit about AI and how it can help some real estate agents.
Yeah, sure. I try to keep it simple. I know it's pretty intimidating for a lot of people. Like when we had our class, a lot of agents hadn't really touched it yet. Mm-hmm. They were not necessarily scared, but just apprehensive a little bit, and didn't really know where to begin, because that's the thing too, right? Is there's a million tools, and it's like, where do you start? It's kind of overwhelming.
Yeah, it's funny because they came to me and was like, hey, can you teach a class on AI? And the first thing I thought about, I was like, well, that's like somebody coming to you and saying, hey, why don't you teach a class on how to use the internet? It's kind of like, where do you start?
Right. So, we started with kind of just saying, it's basically, think of it like a software that can understand your questions and give you helpful responses. It's like having an assistant, that can write, analyze, create content for you, basically. And it's kind of speed to information, right? So like an example would be like you type or speak a request, write a listing description for a 3-bedroom house, and obviously more details needed, and it would come up with something, or it would start asking you questions. So the key point we're trying to drive home here is it doesn't replace your expertise. It's basically, it amplifies it. So we had a conversation about the more detail you give it, the better quality of input you give it, the better quality of output you get out of it. It's going to help you work faster and more efficiently and increase your quality of output as long as you're giving it good information.
Yeah, I'm using it a lot, and absolutely. I mean, I would say it makes me far more efficient, and because it makes me efficient, it makes me far more effective from that standpoint. So cool. What about some of the main places, main AI characters, let's call them, in the realm?
Yeah. So, and I think this will help kind of break down the difference between the main AI players and then all of these tools and kind of how the relationship is, because that's the confusing part. So there's more than this, but there's 4 main LLMs, and that's large language model. Mm-hmm. Not everybody's heard that term if you haven't gotten into AI yet, and those are something everybody's heard of, ChatGPT, and that's by OpenAI. And there's Claude by Anthropic, Gemini by Google, and Grok by X, formerly Twitter. And there's some other ones, but those are the main kind of players in the U.S. There's some other stuff overseas. But those are the ones that, there's a website you can go to, you can type in, ask questions, search the web, do things like that. Those are the ones that process all of the information. Now, every other tool that you see out there that is an AI tool usually has one of these 4 under the hood. So it's kind of thinking of these as the engine, mm-hmm. and all these tools are the cars. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a quick breakdown, because that gets confusing.
Yeah. So there's 4 main ones, like you said. Do you use one for a particular thing? Like, is one better at something than another?
They can be, and they typically are. They're all trained a little differently, because they're all trained on massive amounts of data, and they're all trained in slightly different manners. So you can type the same question into one and then another one and get slightly different answers. They're not going to give you the same answer. So inherently, like I said, the better input you give it, you could get more similar results across the 4. The better you get at prompting is what we call it.
Right.
But inherently, I find that like Claude tends to be better out of the box at writing, and things like that. So there are certain things that you can see that are a little bit better. So, and I usually say, and this leads down another conversation where and we'll get to it, it's, sign up for at least 2, mm-hmm. and try to check your responses. And sometimes you might blend them together, but don't just stick to one.
Right.
Kind of a thing.
So I want to take a step back, because we're going to talk about signing up for some of them and the different versions, let's call it, of each one. But you mentioned about prompting. Okay, so for the people out there who have never used AI or have used it very little, talk to us about prompting. What is it?
Yeah, so prompting is basically how you're asking the question, and usually that means having more structure. You can get great responses. Sometimes I'll just hold down a key and do speech to text and just ramble this whole paragraph. And it's pretty good understanding what you want if you're trying to be detailed. But a lot of times, and this is what will go on, we're going to have another class. The next one's going to be a deep dive into prompting. And there's ways to actually structure your prompts, your questions, to get better output. So it's just kind of a method of organizations, defining a role, defining a need, defining your output. Like you can actually organize all of this in the initial question that you give it and get a better result.
Yeah, I've always heard the more detail that you can give the model in your prompt. So like, we naturally want to write as little as possible. Like here's 3 words because I just want to be real quick and put it in there. But the model doesn't really know what to do with that. So you got to be as detailed as possible when you're putting these prompts in.
And that's amplifying the output or the input, right? Like it's going to wander and give you very generic answers if you don't. I mean, it may ask you a few questions, but and that's another thing. And we don't have to get too far into this, but another smart thing to do on some of your prompting is you give it a structured prompt, you give it all of this information, but then you kind of ask it like, you can build into your prompts, make sure you're asking me certain questions to clarify before you proceed. Like if you make sure you tell it to ask you things back, you'll get a better result. Yeah. It doesn't always do that.
Yeah. So. One of the tricks that I always do, because if I'm prompting and it's asking me these questions, it may give me like 10 different questions all at one time. And I'm like, whoa, that's way too much. So I'll say, hey, one question at a time, and it will go through the questions. And then I can answer the question one question at a time. Then it's going to give me whatever I'm asking for.
I'm glad you brought that up because that was something, you guys remember the brand voice framework that I had built into that initially. And that's something too I like to do is I like to tell it, make sure you ask me these one at a time so that you can think about them, you can respond to it. And also that sometimes shapes how it's asking questions as it goes instead of just dumping you 10 questions at once.
Right.
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
Right, it can be for sure. Now let's talk about the different versions. So let's say, like for example, I use ChatGPT a lot and I use Claude a lot. And there's the free version and there's the paid version. And I know some of them are similar in price, but some of them may be a little bit different. But let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so the free versions have come a long way in the fact that like before, even on a free version, you couldn't attach a file. And I think across all of them, I think now you can attach a file, you can test things out. The main thing between free versus paid is there is some difference in quality of response. But the biggest difference would be conversation memory, like how much you can use it before you run out of your limit for either an hour window or the day or however they're all a little different with that. So one of the things I encourage people to do is sign up for at least 2 free ones, test it out, and as soon as you kind of figure out, okay, this is useful or I like this one, then the paid versions are worth doing. And for a lot of people, they're $20 for the most part. I think Grok's $30, but $20 you can actually use it quite a bit because like you use it quite a bit on the 20 plan. Now somebody like me, there are more plans on different platforms like a $100 plan or $200 plan that gives you infinitely like 5 times or 20 times more usage. Well, I'm using it to code and do other things, so I need to do this. I'm in it all day long.
Right.
But I think for like a real estate professional, I think a $20 plan is going to be more than enough, especially with 2 of them. Because one, you might be working in both at the same time and comparing, but also if you run out of use in one and you've got some good prompts and you want to keep going, well, take that information and keep going on the other one, and then you can go back to the other one the next day or 5 hours later or whenever your usage is up. So something on that too, though, is tokens is a word that gets thrown out there a little bit. And that has to do with like when we talked about you're on a paid version or free version and you run out of, like every chat only can go so long. And tokens is just very similar to words. It's just like, it's pretty close. It'll break down to like, the word real estate would be 2 tokens, but ChatGPT could be 2 to 3 tokens. It's just this arbitrary way that the model breaks down language. You only get so many tokens in a context window is what they call it, and that's how long your chat can go. So regardless of your plan, your usage for the day or whatever, you may run out of tokens in your chat and have to move to the next chat because that's just a limitation of all of the LLMs, basically.
Right. Do you think that, and this is just a question that I've had, because I've run into that where I hit a limit and I go and I'll start another chat, and I've learned how to have each one of the chats kind of reference one another. But do you think, I mean, is there eventually going to be like a maybe an unlimited aspect to that, or is that just kind of the window it's always going to be?
I think we're seeing where it's going with that. There is a kind of an inherent limitation with LLMs about, the longer you go in one context window, no matter how organized you are, it starts to kind of drift, and they call it hallucinations too. Your responses will start to get not as high quality. They have introduced things. Chat had this, I believe, first. Anthropic's got it now, where it's called memory between chats. It's getting better. I think objectively Claude's is better than Chat's. It's a little bit more, you still have to really tell it what to look at, but that's the nice thing is if you hit a limit in a chat and you haven't summarized it, it's hard to take that into another chat if you hit that limit. And now you can actually say, hey, I was just in this last chat, I was specifically talking about this. Maybe like look at the end of the chat. This is kind of where we were ending up. I need to continue that work. Like you kind of got to be specific. You can't just say, let's continue the last chat. Or it's going to be like, it's just going to randomly pick something out of that chat.
It's not going to know where to go.
Yeah, it's not going to know where to go. Because before we had the memory between chats, we had to be like, all right, am I going to run out of context soon? I better like summarize this real quick in the chat and save an attachment. And then you would upload that into the next chat and continue so it had a frame of reference.
Right.
It's getting better. So I hope it's heading that way. I know there's somewhat of a limitation. I don't know where, it depends on how they develop it. I mean, they continue to improve these models. Eventually that may be less and less of an issue. And maybe we'll get longer, context windows even in one chat. Who knows?
That would be nice. However, I will say, because I use mine, I build personas. Think of it almost like a person that's not a person. There's a person in the box. That's kind of how I build mine, and I utilize them from that standpoint. But it is so frustrating when you're in the middle of a chat, you're working on something, and all of a sudden you get the message that says, you've hit the end of this chat, and then you got to go start another one. It's like, it won't go anywhere, but you have to, but they have gotten a lot better from the standpoint of referencing back, and it's pretty seamless.
Yeah,
from that standpoint,
it's getting better. It's getting better.
We've geeked out a lot, on this piece of it. So let's move on. How this AI tool, how real estate agents can use this to be more efficient and effective in their business.
Yeah, so there's a lot of trends, and we'll just hit some different topics. We won't really get into them, but I mean, people have been using it for appointment scheduling, chat bots. If you've got a website, even, I mean, people have seen this with commerce too, right? Like, you could actually have it answer some questions or kind of be a lead, not generator, but like kind of pull it in to be a little bit warm and respond a little bit. Document drafting, market reports. You can do research. There's something called deep research or research, depending on what platform you're in. That is really handy if you're like, you guys saw that one time I ran, this deep research for the market from like 2000. We were looking for trends over the last like 15 years or something. And then I made a website out of that. There's all these ways you can do things like that. And deep research will go out and spend anywhere from like 5 to 20 to 40 minutes, who knows how long, in any of these platforms. And it'll go through like, could be 600, 800, 1,000 sites. Instead of when you do a web search in AI or in an LLM, it'll just do a quick web search. Yeah. And it'll come back instantly. So it takes the time. Property descriptions, but that kind of goes with writing anything. Smart MLS listings, social media content, trying to come up with ideas. Like we in that class, came up with a starter prompt for agents that ran them through one by one the questions. So and it would be for entertainment, for educational content, for listings, things like that. Just helps you get there. Like we were saying, it still needs to be you. And so you would probably take that and then change it a little bit, but it helps you get there faster because it gets you 80, 90% of the way there based on your input. Translation services, and that's something where in virtual staging, but translation services, I kind of want you to talk about the voice mode thing because because of how you use it, but also how you did that little demonstration.
Yeah, so that's really cool. So for those of y'all that have used ChatGPT out there, and I believe Chat's the only one that has this function on it currently, and I think it has to be on your device, maybe on your iPad. I know I can use it on my cell phone. I'm not sure about the iPad or not.
You can do it from the browser too,
Okay.
but it's easier from the phone.
Okay, gotcha.
And I will say Anthropic has it, but it's not as good, meaning they haven't focused on it. So ChatGPT's got an advanced voice mode where it's more conversational.
Right.
But
Okay. So what I did was, and I love using this mode anyway, because I can just plug it in my car and we can just have a conversation. And you do it the first time and it's kind of mind blowing. It's kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm actually talking to somebody, because it's a real voice. There's real thought behind it. I mean, it's really good. But the cool way that we used it in the class was I literally just set the phone down right on this table and I said, hey, Chat, I'm teaching this class on AI to 20 real estate agents here in my office. Wanted to show them the voice piece of ChatGPT, and wanted to see maybe how this could help them. Maybe we could do a role play. And then it jumped right in. And so first of all, it introduced itself and said hello to everybody. One of our agents that was in the office was doing the role play. It introduced itself to Mary, said, hey, Mary, how you doing? And then it jumped right into the role play of the chat was actually being the first-time home buyer. Mm-hmm. And Mary was acting as the real estate agent, and they were going through their role play. So you could use this in your business to help you with these kind of things.
Yeah, and even one of the other things that was cool too was think about if you have a language barrier.
Oh yeah,
you can actually use it live in real time to help you translate back and forth. With a buyer that you might not speak their language.
That's right. We gave that example too, and we're like, so in the middle of it, I was like, oh yeah, by the way, Chat, Mary only speaks Spanish. And it jumped right into, and I'm not even going to try, jumped right into speaking Spanish to Mary. And then also it would tell you the translations as well. So that was really neat.
Yeah, and it's pretty fast in real time. And so, kind of building off that, and we'll list these in the show notes. And, if this is a social media short clip, I'm going to make sure actually that we put that as well in the post copy. But so there's the LLMs we've talked about. We're talking about voice mode, but some of the other quick tools that you might want to check out. There's Canva, which a lot of people know about, but there's some good AI features in there people might not be aware of. Quick graphics for social media, things like that. Granola is one I brought to you guys that's really great for meetings. You can use it live in the room on your phone or on a computer, or especially if you're on a virtual meeting. It's a real-time transcription so that it's actually doing it as you're talking, and as soon as you're done, it will generate a summary of notes, but it has the full transcription if you ever want to take that into an LLM and work with it. But it generates a link you can send to your clients or whoever you're talking about or with immediately, and they can chat against the meeting notes with an AI agent and ask a question like, hey, did we talk about this? What did we talk about here? So that's a really cool tool. Whisperflow, and that's WISPR. That's something that I like to use a lot for voice or voice to text. And that's just something where you hold down a hotkey. It saves a lot of time, especially if you get into using AI a lot, or you're trying to write stuff. It has AI in it, and it'll kind of clean up your language. It'll clean up things. It just helps you get information out really fast. That's handy. Grammarly, I know you guys were talking about that. Improves email. A lot of people use that sometimes for checking their emails, just for grammar and or tone, things like that. And then Perplexity is one that I think for real estate agents is going to be pretty cool, and some people do use that already, I think, in this office. But it's basically, think of it as an AI search engine, but it's good for market research and doing things like that, and it's good with giving you sources and links, which is important because we haven't talked about this a lot, but fact-checking.
Yes.
AI is not always right.
Right.
You always want to push back because it wants to please you. Mm-hmm. So make sure you're fact-checking things that are important. But Perplexity is really cool, and there's actually an offer if you guys search for this. And I will put the link too, in the notes. But you can get Perplexity Pro free for a year if you have a PayPal account, which is really cool. And I actually just jumped on that. So those are the ones I think we've talked about. Yeah. Just as quick little quick wins, quick things to test out, trying to improve your workflows.
Yeah. So let's kind of put all this together, because a lot of information came out today, and like I said, a lot of people are on this, but a lot of people aren't. fearful for one reason or another, or just haven't done it, just change, whatnot. I would say this, I would, if you haven't tried it out, you need to try it out, because it's one of those tools that, in my opinion, is going to change things. It already has changed things, but it's going to continue to change things. And if you're not on board with it and you're not utilizing it, you're probably going to find yourself behind the curve at some point. I'm not going to say you can't do your business without it, but there may come a time where you're not going to be able to do as much, possibly.
And I know we don't want to go down and we're going to wrap up here in a minute, but I mean, just like give that quick example. It's even your personal life, like your health stuff.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like it's not just business. It's things you can make improvements in almost any area of your life. You track your health statistics.
Yeah, I use mine probably more personally than I do business wise. I've got an EA, an executive assistant GPT set up that helps me business wise, but then I've also got a health GPT that's set up, and it's really cool. It acts as like it keeps all my stats. I keep calorie, food intake, sleep habits, blood pressure, heart rate, all those things. I keep panels in there, and it kind of tells me how it's keeping track of trends from that standpoint. Matter of fact, I had a physical yesterday, and I was telling the doctor about it, and she was like, "That's cool. That's like a journal. We tell people to keep these journals, and you're keeping this in a journal via AI, and it's basically talking with you back from that standpoint." So yeah, so all kinds of ways to utilize AI. I would say, if you can dream it, you can put it through there. I mean, really, AI is fantastic for visionary types because you can pretty much do just about anything with it.
Yeah, which is really fits your personality.
It does.
Your type.
It does. All right, so let's bring this all in and let's say, okay, so let's try it out.
Yep.
There's a few out there, so maybe make it a point to get on there, try them out.
Sign up for at least 2 free. Don't have to pay for it right away.
Yep. Let's make sure as much detail as you can in your prompting. That's going to get you a better output, a more closer to what you're looking for in the output.
Try making it ask you one question at a time in your prompt.
Yep.
That kind of helps.
One question at a time. Fact check. Understand that AI is not going to be accurate every single time. You think it's going to be, it may not be. So make sure you fact check it.
Don't put sensitive information in there if you don't want to have it out there. Meaning it's not like it's going to be per se, but you don't know.
Yes.
I mean, so there haven't been data breaches as far as I can tell so far, but just be conscious. Don't put financial sensitive information in there for one. And if you're putting personal information, just be okay with it. Like you're okay with putting your health information in there.
Yeah. So at the end of I heard somebody say this one time. Don't put anything out there. Or if you're willing for anybody to know what you're putting in there, put it in there. If you don't want people to know something, don't put it in there, because once it goes in there, it goes into the ether. There are ways to cut that off. But for right now,
keeping it simple.
And then,
I mean, just think of it like you do in privacy in today's age anyway. I mean, there really is no privacy, but just kind of try to be as private as you can to your comfort level, because with tech comes the risk. Right?
True. And then lastly, what we hit, make sure you fact check it. At the end of the day, it's not you don't. The output is just there, but you still need to put your human touch to it. Don't just rely on this and its output being the end all be all. You need to put your fingerprint on it. You need to double check it. You need to do all that piece of it.
You're making it you by your inputs, but then you still need to continue to make it you after you get the output. It's just going to be a lot closer, a lot quicker.
Correct.
That's the point.
Correct.
And I will say real quick too, try a couple of those tools out we mentioned, not just an LLM. That's something, a whisper flow is free for like 2,000 words a week. So I just want to mention that. You can get free versions of these things and try them out.
We unloaded a lot of stuff on you guys today. So if you have any questions, please reach out to us, leave us some comments, and we'll do our best to get back. I think we may even kind of follow this this podcast up with another one. We're doing that in our classes to go in deeper in certain areas. So we may have some other stuff from there. But if you have any other questions on some of these, let us know, and maybe we can do some stuff on there. But until then, next time.